Question 1 says simplify 5 minus 7 times the quantity x minus 3. So here we're going to want to first distribute the minus 7 into each term inside the parentheses. So we'll start by keeping our 5 here. Let's just write our 5. And then we take minus 7, or a negative 7, times x, so minus 7x there. And then negative 7 times the negative 3, so 7 times 3 would give us 21. And a negative times a negative, same sign, would give us a plus 21, positive 21. So now we want to combine like terms. Here we see that this is the only x term, so we'll just keep our negative 7x there. And then 5 and 21 are like terms, so 5 plus 21 would give us a plus 26. And that's our simplified version, negative 7x plus 26, and so that is answer E. Question 2 says simplify. So we have a minus 4 plus 5 times this quantity minus 8x. So we start by looking inside the parentheses, see if there's anything we can simplify. Since these are not like terms, we can't simplify anything inside. So we look at the first operation we want to do, which is the multiplication, 5 times this quantity here. So let's leave our minus 4 to start with. And so here we're going to distribute 5 times a negative 2x. So 5 times 2 is 10, so we're going to have 10x there. And since these are opposite signs, it's a minus 10x. And then 5 times 3 here would give us 15, and they're both positive, so it's a plus 15. And we still have our minus 8x left over. Now everything is add and subtract, so we can go ahead and just combine like terms. So for our x terms here, we have a negative 10x and a minus 8x. So negative 10 minus 8 gives us negative 18x. And then a negative 4 plus 15. So here we're going to get, we're going to have a plus 11 there when we combine those terms. So negative 18x plus 11 is our answer, and that is answer choice B. Question 3, simplify 4 times this quantity here minus 6 times this quantity plus 7. We look inside the parentheses, we see that both sets of parentheses have no like terms that can be simplified inside, so we just start with the multiplication. Here we're going to have 4 times the term 3x, so 4 times 3 gives us 12x. And then 4 times negative 2, or a minus 2. 4 times 2 is 8, and this is a positive times a negative, so we get a negative there. Now here, because this is a minus 6, we want to think about distributing negative 6 into this quantity. So minus 6 times 4x, we're going to get a negative 24x there. Negative 6 times negative 5, so the 6 times the 5 is going to give us 30. And then negative times a negative, same sign, is going to make this a plus 30. And we have our plus 7 on the end. So now we have some x terms and some constant terms. So we combine, so look at the x terms, 12x minus 24x. 12 minus 24 would give us a negative 12x. And then we want to sort of combine these here. Negative 8 plus 30 plus 7. If we think of these two together first, 30 plus 7, that would give us a positive 37 there. And then when we subtract 8 from positive 37, we would get a plus 29. So our answer there, negative 12x plus 29, and that is answer choice A. Question 4, find the value of the following expression when x is 3. So for each place where we have x in this equation, we have an x there and we have an x there, we want to consider when x is 3. So we're going to go ahead and take the value of 3 and put it in where x is. So we have 3x would become 3 times 3 here, plus 8, nothing to plug in there. And then minus 5 times x becomes minus 5 times 3, since we're putting in 3 for x. So now let's simplify. Here we have some multiplication. 3 times 3 would give us 9. Keep our plus 8. And then minus 5 times 3 is 15. So let's simplify one at a time. 9 plus 8 would give us 17 minus 15. And then 17 minus 15 is going to give us 2. So for an answer of 2, that gives us B as the correct answer here. Question 5, solve the following equation. X plus 7 equals -9. So when they say solve the following, so we want to find our value of what x should be here. We want to solve for x. So here we have x plus 7 on this side. We want to just have what x equals. So we want to get x by itself on one side of the equal sign. So the opposite of adding 7 here to get rid of a plus 7 would be to subtract 7. That's the opposite. So we're going to subtract 7 from this side. And in order to keep these equal, both sides balanced, we need to then subtract 7 from the other side as well. So we find out what we have there. So x plus 7 minus 7, we'll get nothing left there. And then a -9 minus 7, so since they're both negative, we're going to be getting more negative there. And so now we've already solved. We have x equals -16. That's our answer, and that is choice D. Question 6, solve the following equation. 4x plus 8 equals -3x plus 10. So solve means we want to find the value for x here. So we look, we have x's on both sides of the equation, so we really want to gather all of our x terms together. So let's begin by, let's say, moving all of the x's over to the left. So here I would need to add 3x there. So to get rid of a -3x, we're going to add 3x. And if we add 3x to that side, we need to add 3x to this side. So after we do that, so here we get 4x plus 3x is 7x. And we still have a plus 8 on this side. And then our equals. Over here, our x's went away, and so now we just have really a positive 10 left over there. So 7x plus 8 equals 10. Now, we don't have our x term by itself yet. We have this plus 8 over here with it, so we want to get rid of that plus 8. It's getting in the way of us solving for x. So we're going to do the opposite, which is subtract 8. And we need to do that to both sides. So here we get 7x left by itself over there, and 10 minus 8 gives us 2. Now we just want x, or 1x, so 7x. This is 7 times x. The opposite of times 7 is divide by 7, so we can get rid of that by dividing by 7. Divide both sides by 7. We can see 7 over 7 is going to give us 1x, so that's going to leave us with x equals 2 over 7, and that is answer choice E for this one. Question 7, solve the following. So here we have a bunch of x terms in here, so we're going to be solving for x. So we look at sort of simplifying these quantities we have here. So here we have a -2 times this quantity, so -2 times 4 is going to give us a -8 there. And then distributing -2 times -5x, so 2 times 5 would give us 10, and it's an x term. And the negative times the negative is going to give us a plus 10x there. And we have a plus 3x left over here, so let's write that down. Now on this other side we have 7 minus everything in here, so we're going to subtract everything. Or if you want to think of distributing a -1 into each of these terms. So we have 7, -1x, or a minus x there. Here think -1 times this, or subtracting a -13, and that's going to give us a plus 13 there. So now let's look at simplifying both sides. We have some like terms we can gather. So notice we have a 10x and a 3x over here. So we can gather those together and we can have 13x. It's a little simpler there. And then a -8 on that side. Here we have a -x, or you can think of it as a -1x if you want. And then like terms 7 and 13 are like terms, so together they become a plus 20. And now we want to get our x terms together. I think it's easier to probably add x to both sides. So let's go ahead and get rid of our minus x here. Opposite of minus x is plus x. So we'll add x here. So remember, that's like adding 1x. So 13x plus another x. We have 14x there. Still have our -8. -x plus x, that is going to cancel there. Nothing there. And then we have our 20 left over here, still positive 20. Alright, so now we want the x term by itself, so we need to get rid of the -8. Opposite of -8 is +8, so we'll add 8 to both sides. Again, always to both sides. So here we have 14x, and we have nothing there, so equals 20 plus 8 is 28 there. And then this is 14 times x, so to get rid of the 14 and just have x, the opposite of times 14 is divide by 14. So we divide by 14 over here as well. So 14 over 14, that just gives us 1x here. So we just have x there. Now 28 divided by 14 goes in evenly. 14 goes into 28 2 times, so we have x equals 2 there, and that is answer choice D. Question 8, solve the following equation. So we're trying to find the value for x that works here in this one. So here we have a bunch of terms on each side, so we want to gather all the like terms that we can. So first let's look at our x terms. Over here we have a 5x and a minus 7x. So 5x minus 7x, so 5 minus 7 is negative 2, so we have negative 2x there. And then over here the constant terms, so we have minus 3 and plus 8, so that's going to give us a total of plus 5 there. Over here we can see that we have x terms in common. These are like terms. 8x minus 4x is going to give us 4x. And then minus 7, nothing like with that over there, so we'll just write minus 7 there. Okay, so now we want to gather all our x terms together on one side of the equal sign. I'm going to do the easier thing, I think, of making a positive x on the right-hand side. I'm going to get rid of the minus 2x, so I'm going to do the opposite, which is add 2x. So we'll add 2x to both sides. And so on the left, we get no x's left, we just have the positive 5 there. And then 4x plus 2x gives us 6x, and we have minus 7. Now we need the x term by itself, so we're going to get rid of the minus 7 by doing an add 7 there. And we'll have 5 plus 7 on this left-hand side here. So we have 12 over there equals 6x. We just want x instead of 6x, so we need to do the opposite of times 6, which is divide by 6. And so on this side we're just left with the x. We have 1x left. And 12 divided by 6 goes nice and evenly as 2 there. And so we have 2, x equals 2, and that is answer choice B. Question 9, solve the following. Negative 2.5x equals 7.5. So here we really just have a pretty simple equation, sort of a one-step problem here. We have negative 2.5 times x, and we really would just want a 1x, and that would tell us what x is. So what we really want to do is just divide by negative 2.5, because if we have some number over itself, that's just going to give us 1. So we're going to end up with 1x here, or just x. And then if we divide this side by negative 2.5, we also want to divide this side by negative 2.5. Alright, so we can either check the calculator, or maybe we can see that 7.5 divided by 2.5 is going to be 3 here. And since we have a positive divided by a negative, so those are opposite signs, when we divide with opposite signs, this is going to give us a negative 3 here. So our answer is just x equals negative 3, and that is answer choice B. Question 10, solve the following. Negative 4/5 x equals negative 8. Alright, so here we want to find, we have negative 4/5 times x. We want to find a number that we can multiply by on this side to give us 1. And one thing we want to remember about fractions is any number times what we call its reciprocal is going to give us 1. That's what a reciprocal of a number is. So if we think of this as negative 4/5 times x, we want to think of what is the reciprocal of negative 4/5, and the answer is negative 5/4. Okay, we can see that 5 times 4 on the top would give us 20, 4 times 5 on the bottom would also give us 20, so 20 over 20 would give us a 1 there. And then a negative times a negative would give us a positive, so that's going to give us a positive 1x here, which is what we're looking for. So we need to, again, now we need to multiply this side by the same amount, which is the negative 5/4 that we used on the left. And so if we're unsure of sort of this whole number times this fraction, we could think of this as 8/1 if we wanted to. and then multiply straight across. With fractions, we multiply straight across. So our 8 times our 5 would give us 40 on top, and 1 times 4 would give us 4 on the bottom. And then here we have a negative times a negative, so they're the same sign, giving that's going to be a positive 40 over 4 there. And then 4 just happens to go into 40 evenly. 4 goes into 40 10 times, so we could think of this as 40 divided by 4, which is just 10. So our answer, x equals 10, and that is answer choice D. Question 11, solve the following equation. 5 times this quantity equals 3 times this quantity minus 20. So we should begin trying to solve for x by distributing into these quantities. So we have 5 times 6x here is going to give us 30x. And then 5 times 5, so we get 25, and they're both positive, so that's a plus 25 there. Now we distribute on the right side. 3 times 2x is going to give us 6x. And 3 times a negative 1 is going to give us, 3 times 1 is 3, and positive times a negative, so it's going to give us a negative there. And minus 20. So here we can see maybe on the right-hand side we have like terms that we could gather together, our constant terms. So let's go ahead and gather those together. We'll keep our left side the same here, 30x plus 25. So over here we get 6x minus 3 minus 20 would be a total of minus 23 there. Alright, now we can see that we have x terms on both sides, so we want to gather our x terms together on one side here. I'm going to decide to get rid of the 6x over here, so I'm going to subtract 6x. So I don't have any x terms left over there, so I do that to both sides. And we have 30 minus 6, so that's 24x there, plus 25. So we have no x's left here and just a negative 23 on that side. Alright, all of our x terms are over here, so we want to get this term that doesn't have any x's in it away from that side. So we need to do the opposite of plus 25. That's minus 25. And so we just have on the left side now, we just have 24x left. And we have a negative 23 minus 25, so that is a negative 48 there. And we have 24 times x. We want to get rid of multiply by 24, so we do the opposite, which is divide by 24. Divide by 24 here. And so we get 24 over 24 is just 1x, so we have x over there. Here we have 48 divided by 24 is 2, and since it's a negative divided by a positive, opposite signs, this is going to be a negative 2 here. So our answer is x equals negative 2, and that answer choice is A. Question 12, solve the following. 7 times this quantity equals 2 times this quantity here, so we're solving for our variable x. So first we want to distribute on each side, so we take 7 times 3x here is going to give us 21x, and 7 times negative 2, so 7 times 2 is 14, and they're opposite signs, so that's a negative 14 or minus 14, equals over here 2 times 5x is going to be 10x, and a positive 2 times a positive 6 would give us a plus 12 there. Alright, getting all of our x's together on one side, I'm going to choose to get rid of my 10x here, so I'm going to get rid of 10x by subtracting 10x. And I do the same to this side here, subtracting 10x. So on the left side, 21x minus 10x is going to be 11x there. And we have minus 14 still. No x's left on the right side now, and we just have a positive 12 over there. Okay, if the x terms are on the left, we want to get everything else on the right, so we need to get rid of minus 14. Opposite of that is add 14. Adding 14 to both sides. So we get 11x by itself over here, and 12 plus 14 gives us 26. 11 times x, we just want x, so we need to do opposite of times 11, which is divide by 11. And we divide by 11 on both sides. Here we have just x now, 1x there. And over here we have 26 over 11, so x equals 26 over 11 there. And that is answer choice B. Question 13, We want to solve for x, and it says solve by first clearing the fractions. So we want to eliminate our fractions from this so we can work the problem without having to deal with a bunch of different fractions. So when we clear the fractions, we want to look at all of the different denominators and find the least common multiple of all those numbers. Okay? So our denominators we have denominators 2 and 4 and 8 are our three different denominators we have here. So we look for the least common multiple of 2, 4, and 8. And actually all three of those numbers, the smallest number they all go into is actually 8. So our least common multiple for the denominators is 8. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to multiply everything in the equation by the number 8. Okay? Or with these fractions, if you'd like to think of it as 8 over 1. So when we multiply each term by 8, or 8 over 1, let's see what we get here. So when we take 8 times, going from the left, so 8 times 3 on the top is going to give us 24. And our 1 times 4 is going to be 4 here. So we have 24 over 4x. And then we have minus 8 times 1 here is going to give us 8. And 1 times 2 is 2 on the bottom there. Equals, so now on the right side, 8 on the top times 5. 8 times 5 is 40. And 1 times 8 on the bottom is going to give us 8. And that's an x term there. And then the last one here we have 3 times 8, and that's a plus. So 3 times 8 is 24. 2 times 1 on the bottom is 2. And so notice this 8 really only multiplies the numerator, or the top of each fraction here. And so now each of these fractions is really a whole number. We look at 24 divided by 4 is 6, minus 8 divided by 2 is 4. Here 40 divided by 8 is 5, so that's a 5x there. And then plus 24 divided by 2, which is 12. Okay, so now we work it without fractions. So we want to get our x's together. I'm going to move my x all to the left, so I'm going to subtract 5x here to get rid of this x term, gathering my x's on the left. So now we have 6x minus 5x there, which is just 1x, or just x here, minus 4. And the only thing left on the right-hand side is our positive 12 here. All right, last step, we have x minus 4, so opposite of subtract 4 is plus 4. We'll add 4 to both sides to clear that minus 4. And then we're left with x equals 12 plus 4 is 16. So our answer is x equals 16. And that is answer choice C here. Question 14, solve the following. So we're solving for x here. X is our variable. So we have 0.02x minus 0.05 times this quantity. So notice here we're going to have to distribute this negative 0.05 into everything here. So let's do that first. Let's keep our 0.02x there. And now we distribute negative 0.05 times 60. Welcome to use the calculator on that. 0.05 times 60, we're going to get 3 there. And positive and a negative, so opposite signs, we're going to get a minus 3 there. And then a negative 0.05, we want to take that times our x term now, so that's going to give us a negative 0.05x equals 2.7. Okay, so after we distribute, notice we have some decimals here in 3 different terms. So let's go ahead and, maybe like we did in the last question, question 13 with the fractions, let's think about getting rid of the decimals, clearing the decimals. And notice we have 1 decimal place here, and these have 2 decimal places. So to clear all of the decimal places, we have a maximum number of decimal places of 2. So what we would need to do then is multiply everything in the equation by a 1 followed by 2 zeros, in other words 100. Since we have 2 decimal places, we want to use a 1 followed by 2 zeros. That's going to move each decimal place over 2 to the right. So moving this decimal over 2 to the right, that's going to become a 2x here. And then minus 3 times 100 gives us 300. And then here we have a decimal, it's going to move it over 2 to the right, so this is going to become a minus 5x here. And then equals here, be careful, this is 2.7, we move it over 1. If we moved it over again, we would need another place value there, so this becomes 270. And now we can see we have like terms on the left-hand side. So 2x minus 5x, that's going to give us a negative 3x there. minus 300 is 270. And so here we need to get rid of the minus 300, so we have our x term by itself, so we're going to add 300 to get that clear. Do that to both sides, so we end up with a negative 3x, nothing there, equals 270 plus 300 is 570. And now we need to divide by everything in front of the variable here to get just x, so we divide by a negative 3, divide by a negative 3 over here. So here we just get x, and 570 divided by 3 is 190, and a positive divided by negative is going to make that a negative 190 there. So x equals negative 190, and that is answer choice D. Question 15. Use the formula 3x plus 6y equals 30 to find x if y is negative 4. So here it says we are finding x, so we want to get x equals some value. And they give us the condition that y is negative 4 here. So we're going to use this information, y is negative 4, in our formula to figure out what x is. So let's go ahead and write that in there. So we would have then 3x plus 6y, and they tell us y is negative 4, so we're going to put negative 4 in place of y. I'm going to substitute that value in, equals 30 here. So now we can simplify this, right? We have 3x plus, so 6 times negative 4, that would give us a negative 24, right? And then equals 30. So plus a negative, let's just go ahead and write that. A better way to write that is just minus 24, right? So 3x minus 24 on the left side equals 30 on the right side. And so now we want to get our x term by itself over here, so we need to get rid of minus 24. The opposite of that is plus 24. So we add 24 to both sides. 3x is the only thing that's left on the left. This goes away here, and 30 plus 24 is going to give us a 54. And then we have 3 times x, so opposite of times 3 is divide by 3. Divide both sides by 3. And so we just have 1x left on the left side, or just x, and then 54 divided by 3 goes in evenly, that is 18. So our answer is x equals 18 for this one, and that is answer choice E. Question 16 says 240 is 15% of what number? So we're trying to figure out what the number is here. Let's make sure we remember a couple of things that are almost always true about word problems. When we have 240, we get to the term is here. In word problems, is almost always is going to be a statement about something being equal. And so we have 15% here. The word of, a lot of times in word problems, is going to signify multiplication. So we're going to be doing some type of multiplication there. And then what number, the word what is generally going to signify, well, what are we looking for? And so if we're setting it up in terms of an equation or algebra, this is really going to be what we call our variable here. So using this information, that's almost always true. Let's sort of set this up again here using an equation now. So 240 they give us, and we said is means equals, so 240 equals 15%, so let's just look at 15% there. Of meaning multiply, so times, I'm going to write a times there. And then we need a variable of what, so let's just call it x here. Now 15%, generally we want to go ahead and not use percents in equations. We want to rewrite this as some other number. You have two options here. You can either write it as 240 equals, as a percent, we have any percent is that number over 100, so you could go ahead and work this problem as a fraction, 15 over 100 times x. For this video here, I'm going to go ahead and do it as the decimal option. And so another way for us to write 15% as a decimal, when we're going to decimals, we then move our percent, we move the decimal place over 2, and so this becomes as a decimal 0.15, so we have 0.15x. And I'm going to go ahead and do it this way this time. All right, so here we have 0.15 times x, so we need to get rid of times 0.15. So we're going to divide by 0.15. Divide by 0.15 over here. All right, and so here we get, obviously, 0.15 over 0.15. That's going to give us just 1 x over here. And 240 divided by 0.15. You're welcome to do that in the calculator or by hand if you'd like. And that actually is going to give us 1600 there when we do that division. So here we have x equals 1600. So 240 is 15% of the number 1600 is our answer, and that is answer choice D. Question 17 says solve the following equation for y. So we want to find then what y equals. In other words, we want to get y by itself on one side of the equal sign in this equation here. So notice y is already on the left side, so we want to get everything that doesn't involve y away from that side. So let's go ahead and move this 5x term out of the way so we don't have to deal with that. So getting rid of that term entirely, we would need to subtract 5x. That would get rid of the 5x there. And we'll do that to the right-hand side as well. So just left on the left-hand side now we have a negative 4y. And notice these are not like terms. We have an x term and a not x term here. So we want to keep these separate. So I'm going to write my negative 5x and my positive 20 separate, since that's what we have on the right-hand side. Now we have negative 4 times y. We want to get rid of the negative 4 part. So opposite of multiply by negative 4 is divide by negative 4. And whatever we do to one side, we're going to need to do to the other side. So everything's being divided by negative 4. So here we just have y left over on the left. Now let's look at each part here. So when we divide negative 5x by negative 4, so negative 5 divided by negative 4, a negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive. And we'll just leave that as 5 over 4, or 5/4 x. And now we have 20 divided by negative 4, so 20 divided by 4 is going to give us 5. And positive divided by negative, they are opposite signs, so that's going to be a negative. And so we now have y by itself, and we have an expression of what it is equal to. So y equals 5/4 x minus 5, and that is answer choice A here. Question 18, a word problem, says a man has a collection of nickels and quarters with a total value of $3.65. If he has 5 more quarters than nickels, how many quarters does he have? So here they're giving us two types of information. They're giving us information, well, first they're dealing with nickels and they're dealing with quarters. And so we're going to have some information about nickels and quarters. Notice they're talking in this sentence about the amount of things we have. So they give us some information about the amount of stuff we've got, the amount of nickels and quarters. And then they're also talking about values. So let's go ahead and we're going to have some information about the value here in this problem as well. So let's sort of look at this. Maybe we'll build a little bit of a chart here. All right, so let's look here. So talking about the amount of nickels and the amount of quarters. It says he has 5 more quarters than nickels. So since in the problem we're relating the amount of quarters he has to the amount of nickels, since we're relating to nickels, we want to go ahead and usually assign our variable to what we're relating to. So since we're relating to nickels, let's go ahead and call our amount of nickels x there. And so it says, now it says he has 5 more quarters than nickels. So if he has X amount of nickels, 5 more than that is the amount of quarters we have. So 5 more than X would be X plus 5. So we're saying so far he has X amount of nickels and X plus 5 amount of quarters. And now it says, talks about the value, the total value being $3.65. So look at some of the information we have here. Each nickel is going to be worth how many cents? Each nickel is going to be worth 5 cents, or in other words, as far as dollars and cents here, it's going to be worth 0.05 in terms of dollars and cents there. Okay, and so for every nickel that we have, our total is going to increase by 5 cents here. So 0.05 times x is going to be the amount of value we have in nickels. Quarters, we know, are worth 25 cents, so let's write that as 0.25. Okay, and the amount of quarters we have is going to be multiplied by 25 cents, and we know the amount of quarters we have here is x plus 5. That's how many quarters we have. Alright, so the value of nickels now plus the value of quarters should give us the total value we have, right? These two here, if we add those together, we should get the total. And so it looks like here, I guess, when we set up our equation is going to be the value of the nickels, so 0.05x, plus the value of the quarters, so 0.25 times x plus 5, is going to give us our total, and we notice our total value there is $3.65. Okay, so here's our equation, and we want to go ahead and now notice we have a quantity we want to distribute here, so we have 0.05x, and we have plus 0.25 times x, so 0.25x, and then 0.25 times 5, so that's going to be plus 1.25 equals 3.65. Okay, so we can now combine our like terms, so 0.05x and 0.25x, we add those together. We're going to get a 0.30x, or just a 0.3x if you want to write it that way, plus 1.25 is going to equal 3.65. We want to get our x term by itself, so we need to subtract 1.25 from both sides here. Alright, and so once we do that, I'm going to continue over here. So on the left side, we'd just be left with a 0.3x or a 0.30x. And on the other side, we have 3.65 minus 1.25, so that's going to give us a 2.40. And now we have 0.30 times x. We need to divide by that 0.30. And when we divide 2.40 by 0.30, we should get that x equals 8. And so remember, 8 was our x, right? And x is the number of nickels. So x is our number of nickels. 8. We have 8 nickels, but the question asks, how many quarters does he have? So what it's really asking for is the information in this little area over here, and if x is 8 here, this would be 8 plus 5, and so our actual number of quarters here is going to be 13. So the number of quarters is 13, that's our answer here, and that is answer choice E. Question 19. The formula for the volume of a cone is given here. V equals 1/3 pi times r squared times h. And they want us to find h, so we're looking for h. That's what we're trying to solve here. And they give us all of these pieces of information here. V equals 33 cubic inches. They give us a number for pi, and they give us that r is 2 inches there. So using, again, so thinking about V equals 1/3 times pi times r squared times h, and we're looking for h is what we're trying to solve. And they give us all of the other pieces of information here. V is the number 33 equals 1/3, let's keep that, times, they give us an approximation for pi there, they give us 22/7 here in this example, times r squared, and they give us that r is 2, so this is going to be 2 squared times h, and again we're trying to find what h is here. Alright, so looking at this, I think the first thing maybe I'll do is my exponents here. So I'm getting 33 equals 1/3 times 22/7 times 2 squared is 2 times 2, or 4, times h there. Alright, let's simplify this right-hand side. Maybe we want to think of this 4 as 4/1 if we're going for for multiplying all these fractions together now. So we get 33 equals, so on top we have 1 times 22 is 22, and that times 4, so we'd get 88 on top there. And here 3 times 7 is 21, times 1 is going to stay 21, and that's times h. And now we have this equation where we have h being multiplied by 88 over 21. We just want 1h, so the way we get rid of a fraction here would be, and turn it into 1, would be to multiply by the reciprocal of that fraction. And the reciprocal of that fraction is 21 over 88. Alright, so we can see here we need to then multiply the other side by 21 over 88. And now we can simplify. So on the right here we're just going to have 1h left over, and then if we work on this here, we should get, we can think of 33 over 1 if we'd like, and we could do some simplifying. These are both divisible by 11 here, and so I could say that 33 over 88 is the same as 3 over 8. That's one way to do it. And so 21 times 3, we're going to get 63 on the top. 8 times 1 on the bottom, we're going to get 8. And so h is equal to 63 over 8, and that's going to be in inches there. And that answer for this one is B. Question 20. Solve the following formula for V. So again, we are trying to solve for V, which means we're trying to get V by itself. V equals some expression. And so we have h equals v times t minus 16 times t squared. So when we're trying to solve for a specific variable, we want to get all instances or any term that has that variable in it. We want to gather those all together on the same side of the equal sign and get everything else on the other side. So we search here for any terms that have v in them. Here we don't have any v over here. Notice that this is the only term that has v in it. So we want to get all of the other terms in the equation on the other side of the equal sign, so that we can simplify in terms of v. So we don't want this minus 16t squared here. We need to get rid of subtract 16t squared, and the opposite of that is add 16t squared. So we'll do that to that side. If we do it to the right, we must do it to the left. So we're going to add 16t squared to this side over here. So on the right, we just have our vt left over, v times t. And then over here on the left, these are not like terms because they don't have the same variables, so we can just write it as, I guess, h plus 16t squared. And now we have just a v term over here. This is v times t. We just want v, so we want to get rid of times t, or multiply by t, and the way we do that is the opposite of that, which is divide by t. And if we divide this side by t, we must divide the left side by t as well. So t over t is just going to be 1 here, so we just have v. And we have that v is equal to this expression here, h plus 16t squared over t. Some of you have done algebra before may see that we have t over t here, and you may want to simplify that. At this point in the course, they just want you to leave that as it is, and so we'll go ahead and leave that expression. So our expression for v we have equals h plus 16t squared over t, and that is answer choice C.